Hello everyone. In the previous video, we learned about what are locks, what is a lock variable, and in this video, we will talk about what is a deadlock. Well, a deadlock is a situation where each process is waiting for an event to occur, and that event can only occur due to another process. So for instance, one particular process is waiting for a resource from another process. But another process is using that resource during its execution. So that particular resource is not going to be released until the next process gets finished or finishes the execution. This means that no processes can run or release the resource. Now, there are several characteristics of a deadlock, and Kaufman identified 4 necessary conditions that must hold true simultaneously for a deadlock to occur. So the next 4 conditions that we're going to talk about, all of those conditions need to be met for a deadlock to occur. First is mutual exclusion. Then you have hold and wait, no preemptive, and circular wait. So let's talk about the first one, which is mutual exclusion. I believe we have already discussed mutual exclusion several times, and it really means is that one resource should be allocated to only one process at a time, which means no 2 processes can have the same resource. If the second process wants to have the same resource, then it needs to wait for the first process to finish its execution and release it voluntarily. Okay, the second one is hold and wait. So in hold and wait, a process holds one or more resources, and at the same time, it's requesting for another resource which could be allocated to another process, right? So in this case, let's say P2, right? P2 is holding 2 resources, resource 2 and resource 3. And at the same time, while it's holding them, it's also requesting for another resource, resource 1, which is actually being used by P1 at this time. So that is your hold and wait condition. Then in no preemption, so preemption means that acquiring, okay? In case of no preemption, it says that one process cannot preempt, which means acquire another process's resource forcefully. You can't do it by force. You can't snatch somebody else's resources while it's using it to execute. So in this case, let's say P1 has been allocated a resource 1, so it's using this resource in the executing. If P2 tries to request for that resource 1, it's not going to get that until P1 finishes its execution and then it releases the resource voluntarily. Okay, so that's what the meaning of no preemption is, that you cannot preempt a particular resource from another process while it's being used. You have to wait. Okay, so in circular wait, one process while holding a resource, in circular wait, one process is requesting for a resource that is held by another process and vice versa. So in this case, let's say that P1 currently has resource 2 and is requesting for resource 1. Now that resource 1 is actually being used by P2, and P2 is requesting for a resource that is actually being used by P1. So it's like a loop, circular loop. One process is requesting for a resource that is held by another process, right? So it's kind of a deadlock, right, situation. Like you can't get that until each process completes its execution, and this is never going to happen, because this is not going to release until this is not going to get released until this completes, and this cannot complete until and unless it gets this resource which is being used by this one. So it's like a circular loop. So it's called circular wait. Okay, so I hope that's clear to you. Thank you.